All right, welcome everybody to a special edition of Firefighter Friday. We are blessed and honored to have Joseph DiBernardo Sr. on the line with us, calling in from his hometown out in New York. And, sir, it's an honor and privilege. We also have Landon Shaw, our digital media director, on the line with us. But thank you so much for spending some time with us today and sharing not only your story, but the legacy of your son as both serving in the FDNY.
Well, thanks. Great being here. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. So, well, Joe, tell us a little bit about your history. What led through your life of service? You have a profound legacy of service that you definitely have passed down to your son. Share some of your military background with us starting out.
Oh, so a little bit of my history. I served in the United States Army. It was in the beginning of the Vietnam War. I volunteered to go over there. I heard the 1st Infantry Division was mobilizing, so I was in the 5th Infantry Division, and I transferred to the 1st Infantry Division, and I went over with the Big Red 1 and served in Vietnam from 65 to 66. Originally, I was in a recon platoon. I was a scout in a recon platoon, and then I wound up carrying the radio for the battalion's operations officer. So I put like 6 years in the Army as an enlisted man.
Wow.
And then a little additional note, my military service, around 19, when I got out of the Army, and I was a New York City firefighter at the time. The Coast Guard Reserve was recruiting in the early 70s because the war was winding down and they weren't getting any recruits. So me and a friend and I, we decided to join the Coast Guard Reserve because we wanted to do something, and we joined the search and rescue station on Long Island. And we got into the boats, and we were now performing search and rescue on Long Island Sound. I wound up getting a direct commission as a JG, Lieutenant Junior Grade, and I proceeded through the ranks, and I was a lieutenant commander. I got activated for Desert Storm. I got a phone call one day in the firehouse in the Bronx, and the guy said, "Hey, Chief, there's a guy on the line for you." So I pick up the phone, and it's, "Hey, this is Petty Officer Jones from Group New York. We're activating you for Desert Storm." I said, "Yeah, stop breaking my chops." So the guy said, "Hey, Chief, that guy's on the phone for you again." I said, "Oh, no, I pick up the phone. Who is?"
You're wondering what firefighter's messing with you at this time.
No, this is real. Well, listen to me. You're getting activated." I said, "You're kidding." I said, "No, you have to be there." I said, "When do I have to be there?" 72 hours.
Wow.
So I had to report to Governor's Island in 72 hours. My wife wasn't too happy about that.
Yeah, Barbara was, and you're married to Barbara.
Yes, Barbara. And so I wound up getting activated for Desert Storm. I wound up on the battle staff for Atlantic area. And I spent some days there, some months there. And eventually I came off active duty, went back out into the field. And my last assignment was I was the commanding officer of Search and Rescue Station Shinnecock, New York, which is great. We took over the station from the regulars from Friday night to Sunday and ran all the rescue boats. And
Wow.
then I made the 05 commander, and they wanted me to drill down in Virginia in a non-paid billet. And I said, "Well, I really wanted to get 30 years in it, but I don't think I'm going to Virginia for no pay." So I wound up with 29 years. That's my military background.
Wow, that truly impressive. I mean, that is something that 29 years. You know, I did 20 years in the Marine Corps, and there's not many that really go to that 30-year mark, and the level of sacrifice for not only the service member but the family that comes along with it.
Definitely, yeah.
Definitely a burden.
Those that sit at home and wait also serve. You know the saying,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
You guys deployed to Afghanistan and Iraq, but there's that family back home that's all alone.
Absolutely.
There's the wife with the children and with no daddy, and the mother's basically raising the family. So those that sit at home and wait also serve is a great saying.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then And you retired from the FDNY, which is obviously when people think about the fire service, we automatically think of the FDNY and the everything that I hear about, everything that I know about. You've got phenomenal firehouses across the nation, but when you think of the fire service, you think of the FDNY and the caliber of firefighters that y'all have. The legacy that y'all have is just incredible. So tell me a little bit about the 35 years that you served with the FDNY in that part of your life, because that's a whole nother, 29 years in the military, 35 years plus in the FDNY. That is truly the epitome of a legacy of service to our nation.
Well, when I was young, I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. As a matter of fact, I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up. But anyway,
78 years young, and we're still trying to figure it out, Joe.
Yeah, my mother said to me, "Take the fireman's test, take the police test." I said, "Why?" She said, "Listen, I lived through the Depression, your father and I, and the only people that were working in our poor neighborhood in Brooklyn were the policemen and the firemen." So I said, "Okay, I'll take the fireman's test." So I took the fireman's test and never thought another thing about it. So when I was in the Army in January 1965, I got called to the fire department. I said, "Well, I'm a little busy right now, but I'll see you when I get out of the Army." So I come home from Vietnam, and I notified the fire department that I'm back, and they said, "Okay, we're having a class in June of '66." So I literally went from the frying pan of Vietnam right into the fire of New York City.
Absolutely.
It was a transition to the fire department in 1966, and it was my original assignment was on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, and I had just come home from Vietnam, and one of the first runs I went to was a manhole fire on Lexington Avenue in New York City. And we were over there, and we stretched the line and everything, and then the manhole blew. And if you ever heard a manhole blow in Manhattan, it's like, it's quite loud. It shatters windows and everything. The manhole blows, and of course the firemen are used to this because they've been to 100 manhole fires, but they turn around, and I'm flat on the ground. I had a flashback to Vietnam like it was incoming, right?
Wow.
So I'm played out on the ground, and they're looking down at me, and they said, "Jesus Christ, what kind of a guy do we got here?"
Who did we recruit?
Little manhole fire scaring him. But what happened is I flashed back to Vietnam, and I thought it was incoming.
Wow.
So anyway, my great career started out in the Manhattan Engine Company, and then I went up for a while. I went up to Harlem and worked up in Harlem. Then I was going to college at the same time, so I was going to St. John's, and then I was going to Hunter College because originally I wanted to be a teacher. So I was taking some teacher credits at Hunter College. So then I transferred to 16 Truck on 67th Street, which is right around the corner from Hunter, and I was taking credits to become a teacher. Then I made lieutenant, and this was the mid 70s. And I was lucky enough to get assigned to the South Bronx. This is during the Battle of the Bronx, they call it, or when the Bronx was burning.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm up there in the South Bronx, and it was unbelievable. From the mid 60s to the 70s, like 300,000 families were burnt out in the Bronx. It looked like Berlin. If you ever see the photographs of Berlin after the war, that's what the South Bronx looked like.
Golly. And
we were going to 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 fires a night, and it was unbelievable what was going on up there. And it was great though. I loved every minute of it. And I was a lieutenant, and I worked with the best firefighters in the world. And I worked with some guy named Bob Farrell, he's a legend. They used to call him God with a small G. and he is just a great man. He was a Navy frogman in the Korean War.
Oh, wow.
That's a whole nother story.
Oh,
Operated me lines and everything. And Bob was just a fan. I worked with the legendary firefighters, and we went to legendary amounts of fire and everything. So I really work with the best of the best. Now, all this great fire departments all across America, but I got to work with a guy named Dennis Smith up there in 82 Engine, and he wrote a book called Report from Engine Company 82, which put the fire department and FDNY on the map. Every fireman in America read that book or should read that book, and it's about the South Bronx in the 60s and 70s. And I had the privilege to work for a while in 82 Engine, doing a medical leave for a lieutenant. So I met the best of the best. And then I made captain. I went back to Manhattan and worked down on the Lower East Side. And I had my own company on East 3rd and 3rd, or better known as Great Jones and the Bowery. Great Jones Street is only 2 blocks long in Manhattan. It's named after a 1800s firefighter named Jones. And the Bowery is the famous Bowery from years ago. I was my own captain of my own house, and that's when I first took my son into the firehouse. 1980, he was 10 years old. And as a captain, I had the privilege that I could take my son in with me. So I took him into the firehouse, 10 years of age, and one day we had a dumpster fire, and they gave him the booster line, and he put out his first fire at 10 years of age.
Wow.
Now, Joey,
getting
since
started
he was a
early.
little boy, he played with little firemen and little fire engines, and I used to make up cardboard boxes, cut out windows, and he would position the engines in the trucks and play with them, and he drove around in his little fire engine. And then we would tape the fire department radio with all the dispatcher calls on it, and he would play the radio, the tape, and he would play with his firemen. So now he's 10 years old, and he's coming, and he's riding on the fire truck with me.
Wow.
And in 81, I got promoted to battalion chief, and I went to Brooklyn, Bed-Stuy, Bushwick area, Brooklyn. Very, very busy area. But now I'm a chief. I got to take Joey with me. So actually, he's 11 now, and we go to a vacant building fire, and the guys would let him use the Stang or the Multiversal, the large bore nozzle. Then I would take him in the building with me, and he's 11 years old, and I have him pulling ceilings.
Wow.
So he's just a kid, and he's going to fires and on the weekends with me. It was great. The men just treated him wonderful. You know, they looked after him and everything. And his love for the fire service was growing and growing and growing. So I made, I took him to the firehouse till I made deputy chief. And then I made deputy chief. I'm up and I get assigned to the South Bronx in 1985. It's not the roaring 60s and 70s, but it's still quite busy. And I believe we were the most busiest structural firefighting division in the country. In other words, we had the most amount of structural firefighters.
That's incredible.
In America. And it was just great. I'd go to 2 or 3 or 4 jobs a night in the 6th Division in the South Bronx. And my son was riding with me then also, getting to know and develop his love for the fire service. When Joey was 18, now he became a fire alarm dispatcher on Long Island. And at 18, he joined the Setauket Volunteer Fire Department. He rose to the rank of captain in Setauket. And I spent from 85 to 2001, most of my career was in the division up there in the Bronx.
Right.
I did, sometime in the 90s, I did go up to become a staff chief, a deputy assistant chief, which was a 2-star chief, where I had the privilege on the weekends to be citywide commander. In other words, I would ride either all day Saturday or all day Sunday for 24 hours, and I'd be in charge of the city of New York every 3rd or 4th weekend, which is, to me, is the epitome of firefighting in the country. When you are in charge of the city of New York,
absolutely,
I think that's a pretty good accomplishment.
Yeah, that's saying something right there. That's a legacy. And
here's
at this point in time, you got
in a
8
firehouse,
years of,
and now I'm in charge of the best city and the best fire department in the world.
And your son has already 8 years of experience of
All right.
witnessing and fire and fighting fires, and he's just
Yeah.
now 18. That's incredible.
Yeah. In '93, now he became a fire department fire alarm dispatcher on the radio, and he got assigned to the Bronx. Well, I didn't stay too long on staff because I didn't agree with the fire commissioner at the time, so and his policies. So you either get on board or you get off the ship, one or the other. I decided to get off the ship, and I voluntarily reduced myself in rank from a 2-star chief back to a bird colonel, and went back to the Bronx. Okay, my son in 1995, Joey becomes a firefighter, and he gets assigned to a truck company in the Bronx. So that was great. Now I'm back in the 6th Division again. I left the staff, and I'm actually going on some runs with him. So he rotated through. He started out in a truck company, then he went to 47 Engine in Harlem, then he went to an engine company in Queens, and at that time now prior to this, when he was a volley, since he's 18 years old, back in 1988, he's in the volleys, and he's going to every school and every training and every seminar in America. The volunteer fire department sends you there, and he's getting all this extra knowledge about trench collapse, building collapse, hazmat, you name it. And he's getting all this extra training and special knowledge and technical rescue knowledge. Now, in '95, he attains his goal and becomes a New York City firefighter. And we get to work together. And then in 1998, he's on about 3 years. The fire department, FDNY, reconfigured the companies, and they made the squads, which were same parameters as a rescue company, except they were also an engine company first due in their own area. He was assigned to Squad 61 in the Bronx. He's a plank member of Squad 61, and they do all the rescue disciplines. I believe the only rescue discipline, there's 8 of them, that he didn't have was rapid water, that a lot of you people that live out west and in those areas know about, and Midwest know about rapid water. So in 2000, the captain of Rescue 3 calls me up and tells me, he said, "Joe, I'd like to take your son over to the rescue." And I said, "Listen, Cappy, don't ask me. If you want my son, you ask him. I don't want to have anything to do with it, because people are going to say, oh, your father got you there." Because to get into the rescues, it's very elite. You have to have a very good reputation, be very experienced, or have a very great skill. So the captain recognized that my son had all the rescue disciplines, and he wanted him there. So I said, "Don't ask me. It's between you and him." So he was the youngest member of Rescue 3 in 2000.
That's impressive.
In 2000, on Long Island, in the volunteers, he formed the Brookhaven Town Technical Rescue Team. He was a plank member of that. Okay, now we're at 2001. He's not working that day, but his company is working that day, and they all were killed. Now he's working on the pile, and I went down with Rescue 3 every 3 days, and we worked on the pile together. It was a very interesting time. I had retired in 2001, but I still went down to the pile every 3 days, among other things that I did. I was also in charge of family notification for Long Island. I was the guy that came and knocked on your door and told the wife your father or your husband's not coming home. In 2000, at 9/11, the amount of casualties we had was 343 firefighters, which is normally in the line of duty. If somebody dies, a chaplain, a member of the company, the captain, they all go to notify the widow. But we had 343 notifications to make. We didn't know if they were alive or dead yet. And we didn't know if they were trapped, if we were going to get them out. And we got very few bodies in the beginning. And they were sending a fire marshal by himself to go knock on the widow's door. We said, absolutely no good. We'll take care of the notification. So I became in charge of family notification for Long Island, where I would go with a chief and another firefighter in dress uniform. When they found the body and they verified the body, we would make the family notification. Now, that's one of probably the toughest things I ever did in my life.
Absolutely.
To go knock on a door and tell a woman standing there with two little babies her husband wasn't coming home. And I made a number of those notifications, and then we just stopped finding bodies. We didn't find any more bodies anymore. We found very few bodies in the beginning.
Wow.
All right, so Joey, now the rescues, everybody in the rescues were decimated, killed, and the squads. So Joey's, they have to replenish the rescue companies. So my son's got 1 year in rescue, and they asked him to teach at the rescue school, to teach all the new people. They have to restaff the rescue companies. So they asked Joey to go and teach there. So my son comes to me and says, Dad, they want me to teach at the rescue school. I only got 6 years in a job. I said, Joe, you might have 6 years in the job, but you have unlimited knowledge about the rescue disciplines.
Right.
They don't have that. They want you to teach. Now, they have to restaff all the rescues because they all were killed that day. And not only the guys on duty, but the guys that went down and jumped on the rig because it was change of tours. So some of the rescues lost 11 guys.
Wow.
None of them came home.
And it wasn't just because of necessity. Obviously, the necessity was there to restaff, but
right.
His profound knowledge that he had already put in and to master his art became so invaluable at that time to the FDNY. That's incredible.
Exactly. So I said, Joe, they're going to be guys with 20 years coming, 15 years coming, and they're going to look at you. As soon as you open your mouth, they're not going to see a firefighter with 6 years on the job or 7 years on the job. They're going to see a wealth of knowledge,
a resident expert,
and they're going to want to tap into your knowledge, your technical rescue knowledge, and they want to learn that if they want to be in the rescue companies. So between going to fires, going to the pit, digging for survivors, and teaching at the rescue school, he was quite involved. And that was in 2001, 2002, 2003. Now we go to January 2005. There's a fire in a Bronx tenement. I've been to 1,000 of them. Every fire is different. You never know when the red devil's going to come up and bite you on the butt.
Right.
You always have, even though I've been to 1,000 of them, you never know. No two are alike.
You can't get complacent.
I was just going to say that. You can't become complacent because when you become complacent, that's when you get hurt.
And I
went to this fire, typical Bronx tenement fire. Rescue went to the top floor. It was 4 stories in the front, 5 stories in the back. They're searching for life. And unbeknownst to them, well, let me just back up a minute. Just before half a year before this, the firemen used to carry personal safety systems. Now, what's a personal safety system? A personal safety system is a rope and a hook, and it allows you to, in case you get into an untenable situation, you put your hook on a substantial object and you bail out the window. So you can get below the fire, or you can get, swing to two stories below the fire and save yourself. If you can't get to the fire escape, if you can't get out, if it's going to light up, you can bail out. We call them bailout systems. You're going to bail out the window. Well, the fire commissioner, and all his intelligence or lack of intelligence, the ropes had hit their 10-year shelf life. So he decides he's going to take the ropes away. Now, the safety battalion says, don't take the ropes away, Chief. And he says, well, they've only been used X amount of times in the last 10 years. And we're down there at a meeting, the division commanders, and we say, well, Commissioner, with all due respect, if you're saying they've only been used 17 times or whatever they've been used, and that's 17 less funerals you had to go to.
That's 17 lives saved.
So, It's like saying this, and I try to explain this to people. Okay. It's like going to Cupcake, Arizona, and the sergeant or the sheriff in Cupcake, Arizona, has never used his gun in 30 years. As a matter of fact, the small police force in Cupcake, Arizona, nobody's ever used their gun. So now they're having a budget crisis. So they look at the police department and say, you know something? We have to replace their guns because they're 38s and the criminals all have 9mm Glocks. So we got to get Glocks. And the police commissioner says, well, we have to save money. So they've never used their 38s. So why don't we just not give them guns at all? That's the kind of logic that the fire commissioner had. Hey, they've only used these things 17 times or 7 times. Let's take them away. And he does that. So now we're at this fire where they don't have personal safety systems to escape. And the fire apartment is illegally subdivided into a multi-room apartment. And in the illegal subdivisions, they put a wall up and they block the access to the fire escape for the people. So now even the people, only one person can get out of the apartment. That's the person living in the apartment with the fire escape. The rest of them are stuck in the apartment. Okay, now these illegal partitions break up the apartment. The fire's on the 3rd floor. It's burning on the other side of the partition where the firemen can't see it. They think the apartment ends at that wall.
Right.
And they can't figure out what's going on. The boys on the top floor are looking around. The fire burns through to the 4th floor. It's a wind-driven blizzard-type day in winter, January 23rd. Jeff Cool punches a hole in the kitchen wall and he sees fire. He says, this isn't good. Let me go tell the guys. But Jeff walks into the apartment where 27 truck is. And Joey is from Rescue 3. And he's about to tell them, hey, guys, I just noticed fire in the walls here. We got to get out. As he goes to turn around, a ball of fire comes roaring at them. What it did was it broke through from the 3rd to the 4th floor. It ignited a whole room, and then the wind blew it down the hallway. Now the ball of fire is looking for oxygen. It reversed itself. It's heading back to the window it came out of, and it's heading into the living room where they all are.
Wow.
It went from, I almost cursed, but it went from bloop to shinola in a heartbeat.
Right.
Okay? They turn around, there's a ball of fire there.
And this is in the matter of seconds. I mean...
Matter of seconds. John Ballou is at the extreme right window and can't get to the fire escape because of the partition. Poor John got like 5 kids. Leaps for the fire escape and misses it. Goes 5 stories to the ground below.
Okay. Oh, my God.
In the next window, you have Lieutenant Curtis Myron, Eugene Stolowski, and Brendan Corley. None of them have personal safety ropes because the fire commissioner took them away.
Because in his infinite wisdom, they've only used it 17 times. And lo and behold, from his office, it sounds like a great decision. But for those that are on the ground in those moments, they know the importance of these devices. And
right. So
they're gone.
Eugene and Brendan lower Kurt Myron. He's got 3 kids. Kurt dies he dies when he hits the ground, just like John.
Yeah.
Then Eugene lowers Brendan Corley. Brendan Corley lost his brother on 9/11. And I've spoken to Brendan many times over the years, and one of his last thoughts was, oh, my poor mom and dad, they're going to lose another son. Okay? There's other stories about Brendan I could tell you. He said he thought he felt he was floating in air and his brother was holding him up as he was falling 5 stories. Now, Eugene is the last one to go. And he's actually burning. He's on fire now. Eugene, he just leaps out the window, and the back of his coat by his mask gets hung up on the child guard, and it swings him around. Now, he was going out head first. That swung him around. Now he's hanging from a hook, probably saved his life, as opposed to going out like John, head first, and he's hanging there, and he reaches around and he lets himself go, and he falls 5 stories to the ground. He's laying in the backyard. Just a side note on Eugene. Eugene was actually physically decapitated. His skull was separated from his spinal column, and he's one of only, I believe, 7 known cases to have survived that and walked again.
Oh my gosh!
So Eugene is a miracle. They call him Miracle Man.
Absolutely.
And the next window is Jeff Cool. Jeff's hanging out the window. Now, Jeff had purchased his own personal safety rope and was carrying it with him. He's hanging out, and he's laying over the air conditioner that's in the window, trapped. He's got no place to go. In the next room that was partitioned off was a bedroom, was Joey. Joey's hanging out the window, and Jeff sees Joey. And Jeff says to Joey, Joey, I have a rope, but I can't tie it off because of the fire. I can throw you the rope and lower you. And Joey says to him, Jeff, you got a wife and 2 kids. Throw me the rope and I'll lower you. And Jeff said, he said, no time to argue. Throw me the rope, I'll lower you. So Jeff throws Joey the rope. Joey wraps it around his body and his arm, and Jeff rolls out the window. He pendulums, and he lost control of the rope, and he landed in the side alley. But that 10 feet that he got with the rope, and being he landed in the side alley, probably saved his life. Believe me, he was broken up all over. He took his pelvis, shattered and cut most of his organs, and he took, in St. Barnabas Hospital, took 78 units of blood.
Wow.
I went and visited him in the hospital when they had most of his organs laying on his chest. He's a miracle that he lived. It's a miracle that anybody lived. And Joey went out the window, lost control, and fell and broke everything below his waist. But he lived. And that's the story of that fire. The ropes they took away, the illegal partitions, blah, blah, blah. So anyway,
and then
years later, Eugene they're all operated on numerous times, and they all get together and they all go around the country starting to talk about personal safety ropes and safety. They go all around the country. They're advocates for PSS. They travel all to every seminar there is in a group of 4. Brenda, Eugene, Joey, and Jeff. They had the law changed in New York State. They go around the country teaching and teaching and teaching, and then one day my son doesn't wake up. And it's directly attributable to the fire. I mean, if he didn't go out the window and fall 4 stories,
he'd still be here today.
He'd probably be a chief in the rescue battalion today. But he passed away due to injuries from 9/11, and he was recognized as so. From the International, he got the Medal of Honor. New York City, he got the Medal of Valor. New York Fire Department, he got the Medal of Supreme Sacrifice. So we're sitting around one day, and we're talking about Joey, and we said, we got to do something. We got to start a foundation in his name. A lot of the people that around the country that knew Joey from all his talks, and he taught everywhere in the country, in America. A lot of these great instructors and great firefighters from all over said, Joey, let's do something. Let's start a foundation. So I said, okay, let's start a foundation. So myself and some of Joey's friends, in like 2013, I didn't know anything about forming a foundation. So I had some people help me, and we set up the Lieutenant Joseph P. DiBernardo Memorial Foundation. I had a lot of advice from a lot of people, pro bono, and we got our 501(c) charter in 2013, and we had our first seminar where we had some people speak, and we gave out our first PSS systems in 2014 to 2 fire departments in New York, Montauk Falls and Mount Hope, New York. And that was in 2014. This year, we are having our 8th annual training seminar. Now, we've so far, the Joey D Foundation has given out $476,000 in grants across America.
Wow. That's
To
beautiful.
40 departments. We've trained well over 1,000 firefighters. Now, we don't just train them in ropes. We train them in all firefighters' disciplines. And the purpose of that, we train a lot of small departments don't have the knowledge or the facilities where they can do live burns, or they can teach elevator emergencies, or they can teach assuring and collapse. But I have all the experts in all these fields come into New York in honor of Joey, and they're friends of mine, and they teach pro bono. And we have people from all over the country that come to me because they can only get that training from me or from Fire Engineering or from Firehouse Magazine. So we've given out to 40 departments $476,000. We trained over 1,000 firemen. Now, these firemen go back to their firehouse, and they, whatever they've learned at our seminar,
Absolutely.
they teach the people in their company. So in essence,
So you're teaching the force multipliers. Absolutely. Yes. You're creating force multipliers to go out to the rest of the country, to their firehouse, and pass on that knowledge. And, you know, just going back real quick, Joe, number one, it's there's no words that we can say for your son, his loss, his sacrifice. You know, he's saving. You know, we talk a lot about it on our different episodes of Military Mondays and Law Enforcement Wednesdays and Firefighter Fridays, but the mindset, the selflessness, the heroism that we see all the time from our law enforcement and our first responders and our military is just profound. They're a different breed of individual. And just like you stated, that fire changed directions, and every fire is different. And complacency does kill. Every time they walk in, they don't know what they're going to get. They're walking into an apartment building that's been illegally subdivided. So they have moments, I mean, just seconds to react, and all of that training and expertise that they're spending 90% of their time, and they're only spending moments actually implementing it, you know, for them to not have that personal safety system, you know, just thinking about it turns my stomach, because what if that decision from that fire commissioner was to support the men and women that were actually on the front lines, saving individual innocent lives from these fires? They would have instantly been able to make a decision to utilize that equipment and get back to safety and continue to fight that blaze. And
First Sergeant.
And to think about that is crazy.
Yeah, we wouldn't be having this conversation if that fire commissioner didn't take those ropes away. But after the fire, guess what? He brought them back. You know. But we wouldn't have this. We wouldn't be having this conversation, and my son would be walking around. But this foundation, what's great about this foundation? I was just going over my grants, and I'm looking at the states, and we gave in Pittsburgh, Texas, we gave a grant to. We've been out there in Castle Valley, Utah, Palmyra, Ohio. We've been Maine, King William, Virginia, Jackson County, Oregon, Riverside, Missouri, Otter Crew, Indiana, Morgantown, West Virginia, Bathurst, Ohio, Barling, Arkansas, throughout New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New London, Connecticut. We are literally saving lives all over the country.
Absolutely.
Now, this year is a very bad year in this country for charities. We could not have our annual volleyball tournament. We could not have our comedy night. We have not raised a dime this year because of the COVID. And right now, I have like 29 grant applications on my desk from all over the country for just poor places where the poverty rate is like you won't believe the poverty rate in the 20%. Place in Tennessee called Shady Valley, Tennessee, 20% poverty rate. A place in Spring Valley, New York, 26% poverty rate. Dover, New Jersey, 12% poverty rate. All over the country where the poverty rate is like Eastview, Tennessee, poverty rate, 36%. Average income, $29,000 a year. Would you believe this stuff? All these poor people across this country are looking to buy personal safety ropes to save their firemen's lives. And the counties or the cities that they live in can't afford to give them personal safety ropes. So they're asking me. Richland Volunteer Fire Department, Pennsylvania, 37% poverty rate.
So you've got a city or town or county that can't afford it, and then the only option at that point in time is, without your foundation, is for these firefighters that don't get paid what they should get paid for what they actually do. We're putting a financial burden on them to say, hey, we appreciate your willingness to sacrifice your life for your community and the people within it, but we're not going to give you the equipment to make sure that you can safely save your own life.
Right.
That's astronomical. It's incredible. So, and you touched on something, Joe. This year across the country, COVID has, and it, even without all the politics of it, you've got an actual virus. We don't know all the statistics because it's an election year and you've got all the politics that comes with that, right? But it's completely decimated the nonprofits that are out there that have dedicated their lives, that have instead of you sitting there with Barbara enjoying your pension, you're sitting here running basically a one-man show almost, sorting through all these applications to try to fund something that these municipalities should be funding to begin with. They should be making it a priority to keep our first responders, our police and our firefighters safe, and give them the tools that they need to not only do their job, but to maintain their own life while they're doing it in those last ditch efforts, the most crucial circumstances that we should be preparing for. We're not going to give them the tools and resources that they need. So, so how is it year to year that you generally, pre-COVID, that you're able to bring in funds?
Okay. Well, I had first of all, I do have a couple of people that work with me, and Lieutenant Kevin Yost from FDNY. He's my seminar coordinator, and that's where we make our money, at our seminar. And we do have a seminar scheduled for this November, the first weekend in November. And we've got people signed up from all over the country. And I'm just hoping we can go to the Suffolk County Fire Academy and we can do all our training and we do it the right way and we can social distance and everything. But our lectures, we might have to go to our lectures remotely. So I do have people that are helping me. But this COVID is just really shut us down completely. And one thing that you were talking about, these small towns, they prioritize their budgets, so, they have to have apparatus and they have to pay salary. I not only do it with volunteers, but I also do with paid cities like New London, Morgantown, and those places, Erie, Pennsylvania, which is the poorest zip code in America, by the way. I'm outfitting Erie, Pennsylvania for last year, this year, next year. But they prioritize their funding, so somehow this comes out in the bottom of the list. Now, thanks to the Bird's Eye View Project that last year sent us $20,000, and the Leary Firefighters Foundation, and one philanthropic gentleman, that Navy Frog from the Korean War.
Yes, sir.
He sends me his personal donation every year. But we raise funds, $10 here, $20. I sell T-shirts. If I sell T-shirts, I make $2 on $5 on a T-shirt. We have friends of mine that send me $100 and donors. I only make money selling. We make most of our money at our seminar once a year, and we have some generous people like yourself, Bird's Eye View, Ryan Birdman. He came out there and he spoke at one of our seminars, and thank you to the Bird's Eye View for sending us a check last year. And we have the Leary Firefighter Foundation that helps us out. But other than that, all we have is little people here and there. Mr. and Mrs. Average American that sends me a $100 check or a $20 check or buys a T-shirt for $15 and they make $4 on it. And that's how I managed to give away over $400,000. And this year, I'll surpass $500,000. And that's something. We started out with nothing, zero, nothing, nada.
Here
God
you are,
some
29 years in the military, 35 years in the fire service, and all of a sudden, God gives you the task to carry on your son's legacy and to continue to serve by saving lives, training our firefighters across the nation, and stepping up when the bureaucracy gets in the way and you've got elected officials that don't prioritize things that would save lives because they've never walked a minute in y'all's shoes.
Yes.
And it's incredible, Joe. It's
a problem that can be that could be fixed so easily with an agreement from the states to do this for y'all. Birdman talks about how we're in a nonprofit world, so we can be out of the nonprofit world. We want to fix that problem. We don't want to stay in the nonprofit world where where the problem's not fixed. And this seems like a problem that can be fixed. And for some reason, it's either going over their heads or the budget restraints or they're not considering that these men and women are there for us every single day.
Right. Yeah, like I said to the first sergeant one day in the past, I said, you don't take a knife to a gunfight. And you don't put your troops in harm's way, without the proper equipment. Now, First Sergeant knows better than anybody. Our American military today are the best in the world and the best trained in the world and the best equipped in the world. So we're really taking care of our troops.
absolutely.
But, we're fighting a battle every day in our cities. The police are fighting a battle and fire departments are fighting a battle. And don't send your fireman out the door because he might not come back because of lack of a safety tool. Unfortunately, they don't prioritize safety. They prioritize all the other items, which I understand. Hey, you got to have an apparatus. You have to have salaries, etc. But you're sending firefighters into a gunfight with a knife, and that's not good. And you're going to wind up giving an American flag to their widow.
Right. And even if you take the human aspect out of it, if you looked at, in my perspective, if you looked at it from a business decision, when you have a firefighter that has been on the job for, we talk about this in the military all the time. You take that firefighter who's been trained, the time, the money, the effort that it takes to really build and mold a proficient firefighter, and you've got that individual on the job for years, and then because of now, how much does the safety system cost, Joe?
Well, it varies by vendor, but the good ones are around. You have to be trained in them,
right?
So most departments don't have the knowledge to train them. So the training costs like $250 a person. And the system you could get for $700, but you have to be trained. So I would say they average with the training $800-900 each. It's all according to the vendor and the part of the country where they're getting trained in. Now the best thing is I always tell them train the trainer. So
right.
This year, if you need X amount of systems, you get the training, and the next year we save all that money on training. We can buy you more ropes.
Right.
It varies by vendor and part of the country, but say with the train, the average is $800.
So for $800-900. So if I've got a firefighter, and this is what really just pisses me off, but it baffles me that these individuals can't look at this even from just a financial standpoint and say, I've invested time and money into developing this firefighter on the job to where they're proficient and they're able to execute their duties and they're able to save innocent lives in every call that they go to, whether it's a fire or whether it's a grandmother that fell down and broke her hip. And, a lot of the calls, my brother's a firefighter in Rowlett, Texas, and the majority of the calls that they go on is he's responding to a choking child. He's responding to somebody that it's a medical emergency, not necessarily a fire. But for $900, you've paid this individual for 6 or 10 years on the job and all the training that's involved in it. And for $900, you're not willing to slowly set aside money in your city's budget to say, you know what, we have X amount of firefighters and it's basically $1,000 per. Let's go ahead and slowly chip away. We may not be able to outfit the whole fire department, but let's work. Let's get a couple individuals at each firehouse trained on them so we can save money there on the training, and they can train the trainer, just like you said. And then let's start implementing this. It just seems that there's so much wasted money and there's not, in the lack of accountability with our elected officials, this would be common sense. Because if I've already poured in 10 years worth of salary to this firefighter and all the training that they're going to get in a 10-year span, $900 is a drop in the bucket.
Yeah. And a lot of people, I've heard politicians say, look, I can jump out a second-story window. You can't jump out a second-story window. And if you're lucky, maybe you won't break anything. But, do the physics of it. Put on all the gear, put on the mask and the helmet and everything and the backpack, and you weigh well over 200 pounds. Now, I didn't do good in physics in school, but I think it's weight times speed equals force or something like that. So you have something like 200 and something pounds going about 20 miles an hour. It's like standing in the parking lot, standing still and getting hit by a car that's doing 20 miles an hour. Now, you might not get killed, but you could also break your neck and be paralyzed for the rest of your life. You could break a leg, break your back, and you could die by jumping out a second-story window. Or you can basically be lucky and survive it. But the odds on not getting hurt are very slim. So I've had people, argue with me and say, I could jump out a second-story window. Well, go ahead and be my guest with a mask on and all that gear and see if you don't get hurt.
We had a fire behind you.
When I was a drill instructor out in San Diego, we had a recruit that jumped off the third deck of our squad bay. And he jumped feet first, right over the rail. He's wearing T-shirt, shorts, and tennis shoes. Lands on his feet, okay? Shatters everything from his waist down.
Yep.
And that was without all of the safety gear, the coat, the helmet, everything that our firefighters go into a burning building and have to have on to protect themselves from the heat and the fire and everything. I can't imagine the damage that it would actually cause just from a second-story window, much less third, fourth, fifth. It just doesn't make sense for somebody to try to.
Right.
It just doesn't make sense for somebody to try to sit there and argue that point. That's just a coward's way of trying to dodge a real problem that we have in our country. That luckily, fortunately, through the tragedy of your son, you've been able to move forward his legacy in a way that has saved countless lives across our nation, because every single one of those fire departments rely on each other, right? Every time we lose a firefighter, it's just like we lose somebody on the battlefield. When you lose one Marine on the battlefield, you're taking several people out of the fight because now we've got to step up and replace them. Same thing with our fire departments. You can't just replace that knowledge and expertise overnight. It takes
Right.
years to replace that individual. So why wouldn't we do what we need to do to ensure that we've given them everything humanly possible to do their job? Because in the long run, you don't lose that 10-year veteran on your fire department. They're able to escape a worse case scenario. And
Right.
God forbid they have to face it ever in their career, but they
Right.
have to be equipped and ready to be able to handle that situation and walk away from it. And 2 days later, go back on shift and do it all over again. Because
That's right.
that next shift that they don't have somebody and they respond to another fire, all of a sudden, now more lives are in danger because you're down a man or a woman. It's astronomical.
Just like that sheriff. He's got to never pull his gun, but the one time he needs that gun,
He's got to make sure he's got the gun and he's got to have the bullets in it. Because
and he's going to, he'll go home and he'll put the red devil down, or he'll put the bad guy down, but he'll go home to his family.
Absolutely.
But without that gun, the red devil or the bad guy wins.
Absolutely.
And that's what we don't want. Our vision, this is our vision, is that one day every firefighter in America will have the training and the equipment to safely escape a fire. Just basic, that's our mission. Everybody goes home.
Everybody
That's
goes
our
home.
motto. National Fallen Firefighters. Everybody goes home. Just we want everybody to go home. And we believe that firefighters, they can't save lives if they can't save themselves, just like you're saying. That's your point. That firefighter, all that knowledge, all that training, all that expertise is out the window. So firefighters can't save lives if they can't save themselves.
Absolutely.
And my last duty station in the Marine Corps, I had the honor and privilege, which was one of the hardest things and the most honorable things I've ever done throughout my 20-year career of being on the drill field and 2 trips to Iraq and a trip to Afghanistan. The most honorable thing that I had the privilege of doing, the hardest job that I've ever done, was when I was stationed in Topeka, Kansas. And I was laying my brothers and sisters down in their final resting place and folding that flag and handing it to their loved ones and thanking them for their service and dedication and sacrifice to our nation, and what I was talking about before is just the financial aspect of it. To know that $900 can prevent a family from losing their husband or brother or uncle or mother or a father or a mother. It seems so crazy that this would not be something that would be a higher priority. And that's why we wanted to speak today, Joe. We truly appreciate the fact that what your son has sacrificed, what your entire family has sacrificed, your service to this country, to the great state of New York, to serve in the FDNY is something that very few individuals that walk this earth will ever be able to say they had the honor to do. And you've done it with some of the legends of the FDNY, and at a time that was some of the most historic in our nation's history, in New York's history, that you spoke about in 9/11. Even after retirement, it's all hands on deck and everybody's out there. And, we can't thank you enough for what you and the Joey D Foundation does for our fire service across the nation, and the lives that y'all have saved. You'll never be able to add it up. You'll never know the impact, but I can tell you that it's profound in a way that very few can understand. But I know those that walk in y'all's shoes, those that wake up and they answer that call, they jump on that fire truck and they're heading to a new location, and they are just getting bits and pieces of what the information is, and they have to get on scene, assess it, and figure out how to search for lives, how to save those lives, and how to try to save the livelihood of those individuals that are impacted by each and every fire. And, what you're doing is something that is very difficult to put into words, the profound impact that you're having across the country. And it's an honor for Bird's Eye View Project to call you friend, to be able to support you in any and every way that we possibly can. And one of those ways is to be able to share your story, to share your foundation story, to share Joey's story, his legacy and sacrifice and heroism of saving a brother firefighter, when in that crucial moment, his first thought is something that you and Barbara have instilled in him. All the firefighters he grew up at 10 years old, being able to be around, that brotherhood was ingrained in him by all of y'all to think in that split second, it's better for me to sacrifice because there's a greater loss in that other person's life, in Jeff Cool's life. And, that's something that can't ever be repaid. But just being able to share that story and make people aware that they can go to joeydfoundation.org, they can get involved, they can donate. And we're definitely going to talk offline, because I want to be able to see more about what y'all are doing, where we can make a bigger impact with some of our partners, with your t-shirts, and try to save money to where you're not making $4, you're making $10. And that's something that we're going to have a discussion on. But Joe, it is truly an honor to be able to spend some time with you today. We appreciate it. We're humbled by your willingness to share Joey's story, your story, and everything that your foundation continues to do. In the gap that y'all are filling across our nation is truly saving countless lives, not just of the firefighters, but of the citizens that they've sworn to protect day in and day out. And we can't thank you enough.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate everything that you have done for us. And it's my honor and privilege I feel my son is still saving lives, and he is still saving lives. He might not be physically here with us, but through his foundation, he is ongoing saving lives every day throughout America. 40 departments across America, from sea to shining sea. There are people out there carrying a personal safety rope because of Joey D and his foundation. So Joey D might be on the floor above right now and looking down, but he saved Jeff's life that day. He saved other people's lives. You look at my website, you see a picture of him giving mouth to mouth to a little black child. And that's what he's all about, saving lives. And in his passing, he still is saving lives today through his foundation. And only through people like Bird's Eye View and other charitable people out there in the world can we do our job. Because we started with nothing, not a nickel. And by this year, we'll surpass $500,000 we've given away. And I don't know how many lives we've saved, countless lives we saved. And
Absolutely.
You know what? We not only save lives through personal safety systems, the training that we've given to 1,000 firefighters in putting out fires, in elevator emergencies, in trench collapse, and everything you can think of. How to get out of a certain situation, how to bail out, how to go bail out of a fire, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The training, we've trained 1,000 firefighters. They've taken that training home, and they probably, their lives have been saved by that training, and they've trained the other firefighters in their firehouse. So Joey has saved literally hundreds of lives through his foundation, and we want to go on doing it. Unfortunately, I can't print the money.
Right. Well, we
need a little help there. Thank you,
right.
Brian Parrott and Bird's Eye View. Thank you, First Sergeant. Hoorah, Marine.
Rah. Yeah, it definitely is an honor for us. And, the vision, when I sit here and I just visualize the impact, that old saying, you throw a pebble into a lake and the ripples just keep on going. Joey threw a boulder into the middle of a lake, and we want to continue his legacy. We want to continue to support y'all. in the Joey D Foundation and be able to see y'all elevated to a whole new level. So everybody out there listening, I want you to go to birdseyeviewproject.org. I want you to go to the joeydfoundation.org. See how you can get involved. Through Bird's Eye View Project, you have the ability to become a reoccurring giver. All right. With Team Alpha Kilo, that is the money that we have the ability to push out to organizations that we support, like the Joey D Foundation, that are truly impacting the lives of our firefighters and those that they serve across the nation. Without your help, this isn't possible. I know this time right now in America is crazy. We've got COVID going on. We've got divisiveness. There's not a first responder that wakes up in the morning and goes to the office, whether it's at the police department or the fire department, and not a single one of them says, you know what? When I go on my next call, I'm only going to save the people that look like me.
Oh.
They are individuals that have sworn to put their life on the line and serve anyone and everyone that's in need. It doesn't matter what race or color or creed or gender or sexual preference. Just like my brother, who's a firefighter, they wake up when that alarm bell goes off, they gear up, they go do their job, and every life is precious. And
that's right.
That's what we need to have our country really, truly realize is we need more equipment. We need more training, because that just gives them the ability to save more lives, and that brings the community together. Because when these firefighters go out, I promise you, when they go out, just like our law enforcement, and they are responding in the worst situation that person has probably ever experienced, there's a lifelong bond there. There's a mutual respect that can only be formed in those worst case scenarios. And it's a lifelong bond. So for all of our first responders out there, all of our firefighters, we appreciate what you do. We love you for it. We're eternally grateful for you and your family sacrifice, because when these firefighters go out on their every third day shift or whatever their shift is, their family, they don't know if the next knock on their door is going to be that chaplain. It's going to be a fellow firefighter in their dress uniform delivering the worst news that family could ever experience. And they do it, and they're proud that their husband or wife stepped up to the plate and were willing to sacrifice everything, if need be, for their communities. And that is something that very few people in this nation can say that they've done. There's a lot of families that have experienced that and can speak to that, and what it's like to not know is a horrible feeling. But they do it, and they're proud of their loved one that is serving. And Joe, your entire family is one of those families, and we truly appreciate you. We love you and your family. We hope you and Barbara are doing amazing. And I know for a fact Joey's looking down and he's proud of what he did for his time here on earth. And God gave you a very special son that has impacted countless lives. And like you said, continues to save and impact lives while he's in our Father's kingdom. And we can't be more grateful for your sacrifice and letting the amazing people in New York have him serve them is such an honor. It's amazing, and we appreciate you.
Well, it's my pleasure to serve, and I can only say God bless the military. God bless our first responders, our police, our firefighters, our paramedics, our EMTs, and God bless America.
Well, absolutely.
We appreciate you, Joe. We love you. And I know this upcoming week is the anniversary of September 11th. And I know there's a lot of brothers that
Oh, yeah.
that you're remembering. So our heart
Oh, I
goes
lost
out to
40
you and all of their
I lost 40
families.
friends that day.
It's
40.
incredible. It's
Yeah.
wow. Well, we appreciate you, Joe. We appreciate what you continue to do with the Joey D Foundation, and anything that you need from us, you know that we're here. And I would urge everybody listening to go to joeydfoundation.org, get involved. Every dollar counts. Be the force multiplier that can add one more personal safety system into our fire departments. Getting one more firefighter trained, because it will change and it will save countless lives, and only you can make the difference. So we appreciate you, Joe. We appreciate your time today, and we look forward to talking to you again.
Thank you, Joe.
You're welcome, brother. Bless.
All right. God bless. Y'all have a great day.